Welcome to episode 72 of Random Thoughts.
Yep.
Yeah.
So back in episode 50, we talked about Nordics, and we talked about hamstring eccentric strength and strains and everything of that matter. It's episode 72. It's been about 4 months or so since then. I think we should do a recap and our learnings.
Yeah, okay, great. So the first learning for me is that it's amazing the people who will lose their mind and go off on rants on what you do.
And tangents.
About how what you're saying is rubbish without actually watching the video.
It's amazing. I would never have thought before starting a podcast that people would go, so I didn't actually listen, but
what you're saying is right. How can...
Yeah.
It blows my mind. So we had people saying, they do what's called a straw man argument, and a straw man argument is
which is a logical fallacy.
Yeah, it's a form of it's a logical fallacy, and it's a debating trick as well. So it's where someone says a thing and you say, so you're saying, and you exaggerate their position massively.
And twist it a bit.
And twist it to and so it's used against gay marriage is the most common one, where people who are anti-gay marriage will say, so you're saying we should be allowed to marry horses. Like, no one said that.
At no point did anyone say bestiality.
Well, you're saying, it's just... and it's used as a very crude and simplistic trick. But I think it happens in all sorts of arguments where people will magnify your position way beyond what you were saying, and you have to call them whenever you go, actually, no, we weren't saying that. So I want to be crystal clear, and I'm going to do it straight down the camera. We have not and will not ever say that all you should do is Nordics. Hamstrings are multifactorial. You should attend to glute strength, running technique,
hip flexibility, core strength, activation,
neural issues.
Neural tightness. Yeah.
There's a million different things. What we did say was Nordics are good. And I stand by that, and I challenge 100%. You to say Nordics are not good.
When used appropriately for the right
when
situation.
When built up to appropriately, yeah. And to recap on why they're so good, I think before we dive into what we found, I think it's worth just recapping. The biggest thing is that what you're getting is a supramaximal dose of eccentric strength. So what that means is you're putting the body in a situation where you're asking it to act, the hamstring to act as a brake. Like if you use my arm as an example, as you're pushing down,
the bicep is working eccentrically to stop me pushing the arm down. Yeah.
And it's supramaximal, meaning it's above that which I could handle on the way up. So it's physiologically impossible to get a supramaximal deadlift because
by definition, it's not supramaximal because you picked it up.
You picked it up, so it's not. You could have that weight. So that's where the magic of a Nordic is that it's supramaximal. But there are other supramaximal eccentric things, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But that's the chief benefit, and the effect of that is not just that you get stronger, but that you're altering the muscle architecture in such a way as to make it less vulnerable to injury. So that's the secret sauce. That's the special thing you get out of a supramaximal eccentric thing is the muscle architecture change, which you don't get with something like
deadlifting
or RDLs. Yeah.
And so when we talk about muscle architecture, that's stuff like the pennation angle. So muscle fibers don't run straight up and down the muscle. They tend to run, and different muscles have different relationships. They tend to run on slight angles. And so as you do eccentric work, that lengthens out. And this is why eccentric training can increase your flexibility, because it literally, in a sense, will lengthen out and change that angle.
It's crazy.
Which gives you better, on a microscopic level, better biomechanical advantage to the muscle to withstand and hold load.
It's really interesting. We'll relink the Opar.
The David Opar video. If you're even remotely interested in sport, exercise, football, soccer, and hamstrings,
even if you're not that interested, I still think it's just so fascinating.
Especially the first half of it, where it goes into the science of the pennation angles and the fascicle lengths and stuff like that.
And what was fascinating too is the way it washes off. Like you can
you lose it so fast.
Yeah, you don't lose the strength. So the pennation angle, the architectural changes get reversed quickly, which is really bad.
But you maintain the output capacity.
So you don't necessarily notice that the architectural... Well, you wouldn't unless you're having ultrasound done on your hamstrings, which not many people are. So we talked about that, and I don't want to rehash it. You can go back to episode 50. Yep.
We also talked about it in episode 9 as well. I'll link them all at the show notes.
Yeah, terrific. Okay, cool. And so it's been an interesting 4 months or so. So we've now been...
It's been an interesting 12 months. We've really been doing Nordics for about 12 and a bit months now.
Yeah. And the catalyst for it was that our friend Keith D'Souza told us that no one, because we were concerned about hammy tears.
Because I think we all three of us there for that conversation, you, myself, and Keith, and we said, but what about people tearing? So they'll just drop.
It just won't happen.
And he's like, they'll just, like, the nervous system will cut in and it will stop them from tearing the hamstring apart. And we're like, yeah, right, yeah, probably right there. How bad? And we're being a little timid on that. We were.
Probably. Yeah. So we've been doing it for 12 months. I would estimate, we should have run the maths on this, but we'd be up in the hundreds upon hundreds of reps having been performed.
What percentage of our population do you think? We've got over 300 athletes. How many of them would be doing Nordics?
Be 100 plus.
So close to 50%?
On a weekly basis, rep after rep. And we've had 0 hamstring drama.
Correct.
We've had a couple of people feel a bit of crampiness, and so we said stop.
Yeah.
That was easy.
Yep.
We just have not had any drama whatsoever.
No tears or anything like that.
And it's been much easier than I thought it would be. I think I was worried that people would like not quite concentrate and they would kind of overhang on and tear something. Like I was worried that it was only
They'd
good.
get competitive with it too much.
Yeah. And the competitiveness, look, we've made a mistake. So, okay, firstly, people got way better at it than we thought they would. Like my expectations have been massively exceeded.
They improved rapidly. As soon as we made a couple of videos about it, and as soon as we showed them it was possible to turn it around and get all the way nose to cushions.
And I think we've got to give props to Bella, our 14-year-old girl who can do 7 reps.
I haven't seen her do multiple, but I've heard stories. Yeah,
she can do for multiples, like all the way out, all the way back.
Kate Mahoney can now as well.
Yeah.
So that's our girls, and then Hayden Mitchell.
And so that pushes the boys along as well, having a couple of the girls being able to absolutely dominate that, which I love. So it's massively exceeded expectations. People have gotten so it's been easier to coach. People really concentrate because they can. It feels a bit life or death. So you get wonderful intensity. The only downside has been that in the focus on doing an out and back, people are like really dismissive about just doing because a perfect Nordic is actually just go all the way out and control
slowly as possible
with your body dead straight. And people are like, because that's now we actually set the bar too high, and people think a good one is where you come back up.
Yeah.
And what that means is a few people have started hinging over a little.
Yeah.
And
so we've got a little bit more hip bend through our population than
which isn't the end of the world. I'm not having nightmares about it, but I'd like it to be straight.
It'd be nice to be a little more disciplined with them, for sure.
So it's a thing I'd like to continue working on. So the hamstring 0 dramas, we've had a couple of people with some pes and serene sort of discomfort on the inside of the knee.
Yep.
And we've had one patellofemoral joint that was a pre-existing, a little bit grumpy one, and that just didn't like it.
So I suppose the summary of that is sort of, if you've got a pre-existing knee problem, they might not be for you.
I think if it's a tendon problem, you're probably okay.
Tendon's probably okay, but patellofemoral meniscus
if
and
you're
bursa
just a bit susceptible to the joint being a bit grumpy, there's something in that joint a little bit grumpy, because patella tendon isn't really in the joint. It's sort of so I'm now of the opinion that those guys, even though it's only a small sample, it's enough to make you go, probably don't have anyone with that history do them.
So maybe your ACLs that have accompanying meniscus or MCL or bursa based problems, I would probably not be Nordicing them. You have to find a different option.
And we have.
We've got a couple.
And so I think that's the trick, is having a number of supramaximal eccentric tools in your toolkit. And so the one was inspired again by watching the David Opar thing called hamstring sliders, when you've got you're lying on your back and you've got your foot in some sort of a stirrup type situation up high, and you've got to elevate with like a glute bridge, and then
you lift yourself up with.
Should we just do a video?
I'll do a video and we'll put that in there. So you lift yourself up with the other leg, and then you curl in with that leg while you're supported, and then you lower yourself back out. The video will be in the link in the show notes.
And I actually think I love that exercise because it's unilateral rather than bilateral, because I'm still suspicious that some people could have a 60-40 relationship where their strong hammy, because we don't have Nord boards, where their strong hammy is actually carrying more of the load. Whereas the unilateral stuff, it's got nowhere to hide. And you can it's easier to control it because you can control it all the way out. Whereas I've been at the Nordics all year, and I'm still not that happy. Like, I'm working at it twice a week, every week, and I'm still not that happy with my last 10, 20 degrees. Like, I don't feel like I'm actually getting much improvement there. So I'm tacking on a couple of the sliders at the end, so that I'm working the first bit of into extension on the Nordics, and then I'm actually getting the last few degrees into extension on the sliders. So I'm getting I'm getting super maximal at both parts of the equation.
Yep.
I made notes. Overall, in terms of our level of happiness with them, I think it's one of the best things we've ever done.
Yeah, we were too dismissive of them due to their intensity, due to their perceived intensity. We didn't give them a crack.
Yeah,
yeah,
they're really good.
And so, I'm sure there's a philosophical
concept
behind this.
But what's interesting is
our
I did hear of someone working in our industry who I reckon saw that, or maybe just not that, maybe they didn't, whatever. But anyway, not that long after that, went out and gave Nordics to an entire footy team on the Thursday before a game, and they'd never done them. They're all doing like sets of 10, and then had multiple torn hammies that weekend. And then what happens is the coach goes, everyone tore their hammies because they did Nordics. No, because they started with
because they inappropriately did Nordics.
Yeah. So if you do watch the videos and you do get interested in your own training, or if you're coaching athletes, I think the biggest thing is there's zero problem in starting really small and doing 3 sets of 3 reps.
Yeah. The beautiful thing about Nordics is you can scale them really easily with your volume, and you can also, one of the reasons they're so well studied is you can do them with soccer or footy teams out on the oval.
Yeah,
partner up, do 3, swap over, other person does 3, and keep going like that. But if I was starting with a footy team now, I wouldn't do them within probably 72 to 96 hours of a game.
No.
So if I train Tuesday, Thursday, play Saturday or Sunday, I'd only do them at the Tuesday session to start with.
Yep. And
I'd start with 3x3, 3x4, 3x5, maybe get up to 3x6 or 3x8.
And
that'd be enough.
I'd start with 3x3 with the strict instruction of, I want you to take 50% of the load with your hands when you land. Yep. Like, so you're making it's a real push-up catch. Yep. And the idea of it's all, like sometimes when kids athletes have missed a while, I'll talk about how the first session back, I want to be almost like yoga with weights. Like we're just putting it through a basic range. I'd almost have that approach. The first couple of times, you're just learning the shape of the movement. Nothing too intense, and just ease into it. The other area for the eccentric thing is the eccentric flywheels. Have you seen
those? Flywheels are amazing. They're part of the future.
I think so. I think that's... Because I think eventually, not the Nordics will be superseded because they offer so much because they're simple and they're zero equipment required.
Yeah.
But I think there will eventually be cable-based systems where you can get, what might be the holy grail of super maximal load in a functional stance, because the knock against Nordics is it's not strictly functional.
Yeah, functional is a whole can of worms to be unraveled another time. But
but the idea that you could get a super maximal eccentric load in a functional setting, that'd be something
in
special.
Some sort of a squat or hinge or sprinting or lunge type position. That'd be nice.
And then some people have been playing around that a bit with the flywheel stuff. I think the flywheel is a stepping stone answer. I don't think that's...
It's an interesting one. I'll link to a video demo of the flywheel as well, so you can see what that actually is if you haven't seen them before.
The problem with the demo is if you don't, it's hard. You watch it, and I don't think the visuals don't. You need to do it to get a sense of.
Yeah, they're insane. They make me feel a little ill when I watch them. But yeah, all the videos will make it look easy, but trust us, it's not.
Takeaways.
Nordics are good.
They're not everything. Still do your glute activation.
Still do your hip flexibility.
Still run properly. Do everything else. They are a component of a successful hamstring anti-injury system.
I think that's a big takeaway from probably the last 72 episodes we've ever done. Is that everything we talk about, it's so hard. And when we did the shorter sort of edited videos last year as well, it's hard to just go, here's a concept, because that concept's related to that one, and then to that one, and then to that one, and then all of a sudden you've got a 10-minute video and you haven't actually explained all the things fully. You've just sort of everything in strength and conditioning athletic development, it's so interconnected. And so hamstring strength and Nordics are such a massive component of injury rehab and ACL prevention and all that sort of stuff, but it's not the only thing. And at no point do we ever think it is the only thing.
But because what it is it's like we're doing cooking recipes and we're saying, this is an amazing ingredient. And then people are saying, you want to serve a paprika meal?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, paprika
is great. With the garlic and with the beans and with the other stuff.
Like, it's just that confusing an ingredient for the recipe.
Yeah.
The recipe is always got some complexity to it.
Yeah.
And we're always, I think one of the most fun parts of our job is communicating and helping people to understand how to make their own stuff and trying to simplify it down. And I think in doing that, when you make it simple, people think, oh, it's just really simple. Like, no, it
took a bit of it actually takes to make things simple is actually more complex than leaving it complex.
Yeah,
it takes some deconstruction.
And then people walk away and they go, oh, we're saying just do Nordics. No, we're not saying you should do a bunch of stuff, but Nordics are one of the great things that you can do and probably should be doing with some of your people.
Yep.
Some of the time.
Nice. I think we'll leave it there. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
So that was episode 72. As always, there'll be a bunch of show notes. There'll be a couple of videos in there as well, and we'll do a video of the sliders.
Yeah.
We'll go film that out in the gym in a little bit, and we'll link that as a YouTube video, just as a straight up demo, no explanation. So the explanation's with this video.
And with all this stuff, if you have pre-existing conditions, particularly knee stuff, don't be jumping in the deep end.
Yep.
Get yourself cleared to be able to do this stuff.
Yep. Yeah. Talk to a strength coach, physio, something like that, and then start small and build from there.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Cheers.